we rolling?
We appear to be.
Okay. Hey, welcome back to I Want to Be Your Canary, a Final Fantasy podcast. This is going to be episode number 3, take 2.
Yep, just take 2.
Take 2, which is even better than take 1 because take 1, we had one of our party here, Mr. Scooter, was down. He needed a little Phoenix Down action, but he's back with us.
Back with
Yes.
He's back with us, healthy, wealthy, and wise.
We're here.
So we also have special guest. Well, I don't know if we're good enough yet to be considered a special guest, but someone else wearing headphones. But he is a 220 marathoner,
And he is special to us.
and he is special to us. And that's only a minute and a second off the Olympic B standard.
Yeah.
So
Olympic trials be standard.
Olympic trial. You know what?
Just call yourself an
That's-
Olympian, would
Just
you?
call yourself an Olympian.
Well, you know what? Let's just.
He's essentially going to the Olympics next
You've
next
essentially
go
already
around.
won.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Take
good.
that to the bank.
Take it to the bank. So, talking this week about what we've been kind of taking a look at is, you play these great, well thought out worlds that are all special in their own way, and there are things that I know that when I play these games, I go, oh man, that would be so cool to live there. And there are other games, it's like, oh boy, no thanks.
Thank goodness this is just a video game.
Yeah. Thank goodness this ain't real.
No, thank you.
So there's a lot of different aspects to these games, whether it's culture, whether it's some of the side games, whether it is the way just the world operates that has made us say, all of us say, hey, this would be a lot of fun to live here. I wonder if I could. So we're going to talk, go through a couple of these games and say, what's the most feasible to live in? Maybe what one we would most enjoy living in. So I kind of have a breakdown of a category of categories, and this isn't the only category that we could choose from or we could pull information from. But kind of what I sketched out was the world that has the least impending doom.
That's a good thing.
Certainly an aspect. Fun. Hey, what games just have just fun things? Triple Triad. Things like that. Can I be an adventurer too? I know that there are some, we've all thought about, oh man, we name our characters sometimes after ourselves because we put ourselves in that
See
role
yourself in that world,
being
yeah,
that
yeah.
hero. Other jobs other than an adventurer, you're just like, hey, what else could I do?
Yeah.
Be an innkeeper?
Get by.
Yeah. The most best just kind of culture in a world.
Okay.
And that's kind of a loose term, so I feel like we could probably pull a lot into that. Then whatever other things that we like. So, Scooter.
Oh, sure.
Why don't you start us off and just kind of?
Oh man, well that's the thing is that you guys had the opportunity to kind of mull over some of this in the past that the past land that did not record. So
For approximately like an hour. So no.
yeah, well, yeah, no big deal, right? So I just got to dive in here. So there's so much.
Or you can even talk a little bit about some of the
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
aspects of some of the worlds.
Sure.
Just to kind of bring some people down that
yeah,
memory lane.
If you want me to give you like a rundown real quick or something.
Sure. Or just give us some of your favorites of like worlds or what you can really expect in some of these Final Fantasy worlds.
So, starting at number 7, the 3-dimensional worlds, and moving on, right? Even in the 2D sprite worlds, there was an overworld map, basically, that your party would often, traverse around to get to different towns, locations. There's little dungeons, stuff to find. And that was a big part of the game, the overworld map that you get to play in. They were always pretty big for that time and that game skill, if I
Certainly.
remember right.
Certainly.
And I don't know. I'm just thinking like there's so much to explore in each one. That's why they were so fun having the overworld map. Like,
Well, just kind of to build off of that. Can't speak enough about the overworld map. At that point in time, yeah, there were other games that had that, but when it came to open world play, yes, it's an expectation of games nowadays, but really that was pretty scarce commodity way back when it came to video games. So having the ability to go wherever you wanted and not actually have to go down a linear corridor.
it was an open RPG in that
Yeah.
sense. Open world RPG. I mean, like, yeah.
Those first Final Fantasies, when we look back on them now, we see them as very linear, and they are. You have to go to point A to point B, and side questing really wasn't as big of a thing. But Final Fantasy really took some of that D&D, or excuse me, Dungeons and Dragons aspects of the way that, okay, there's a town here, and this town is kind of like a source of light, and around the source of light is darkness, monsters, scary stuff. So when you would go from, you would go in this town, and then you'd have to traverse this dangerous land in order to get to another town, which is very Dungeons and Dragons. It's not like, if you're starting off in Smoky Point, and then it just runs into Marysville, which runs into Everett, which runs in,
it's a hard, long, arduous journey from safe point to safe point, town to town, or whatever. Yeah.
Which is pretty much like living in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, so some of those aspects, Scooter, I'm going to hit you up with talking about what your least impending doom when you are in some of these games. It's
the worlds are about to be destroyed more
death
often
is
than
imminent.
not. It's. I mean, meteor is one of the most common things. The spell meteor is this rain from the heavens that has come to destroy the worlds, and Earth happens to be one of them, or whatever version of Earth it is. So I'm trying to think, in which game would I least impending doom?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, just right off the bat, number 10 comes to mind because at the beginning of that game, anyway, the world was in the calm, right?
Mm-hmm.
The long period of time they called that was peaceful, and the sin, which was the big monster in that one, was gone and dormant, and the world was calm. And so that time period in that game, in that world, felt okay. A lot of the other ones, not so much that come to mind. Like that's what springs to mind, but I'm probably missing one.
Well, I mean, if that's what springs to mind, that's perfect. Russ, do you want to talk about just that calm and why that is? And
yeah, so like Scooter had referred to in number 10. So what he was talking about is the first calm. So
Right,
that's
there were
before
several,
the presence of sin, before the appearance of sin, and then after that, they'd go through these periods of time, approximately a decade long, and then sin would reappear, essentially this big monster, end of world type presence. And we can talk about this more. And really, although it seemed like this end of world presence in the game is actually is going to wreck whatever towns it came across and bring chaos. It wasn't necessarily world ending per se, but it did wreak havoc. And the reason for its appearance in the first place, believed to be in the game by the people that worship various deities, and Yevon, to be specific, was the presence of machina, or machinery or technology. So again, a big presence in the first part of number 10.
so just don't have your iPhone out.
Just don't have your iPhone out. Don't have your iPhone.
You're good.
Put your Surface away. I mean, don't play the Switch. Just put it away.
Yeah, just live like it's pre-video game, pre-electronics. You're good to go.
Don't be like our guest star checking his guest phone every.
Goodness gracious, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
It's got to keep up with Instagram. Man.
and like you said last week, I remember you said that sin was comparable to pretty much a natural disaster.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's an interesting. Yeah, because it's like, what were they trying to parallel in modern times? Because
Sure.
a lot of the stories do try and touch on cultural topics or relevant things, and
Well, see, that's why I wanted. If I was gonna go to World and just solely base it off of impending doom, 10 was also my pick because of sin. I likened it to like a category 5 storm.
sure.
There's definitely some notice ahead of time. I mean, in 10 there's sin spawns that would drop down, and basically these little micro-isms of spawn, and would wreak havoc, but not to the same extent of the full sin.
Yeah.
So kind of like, I mean, like a tornado's coming, or a hurricane, or category 5 hurricane's coming. I mean, the wind's starting to pick up, rain's starting to pelt down. You know it's coming, so you can kind of prepare for it. That's kind of how I see sin.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, as long as you're not being foolish, get out of the way, put away your iPhone, you're good to go.
Yeah. Okay, and that is a good one. I when I first started kind of putting together this, I thought, oh man, Sin, never know when it is going to pop up. But I
It's
think
true.
you are right in the sense that it is like that natural disaster. You may not have a whole lot of warning.
Mhm.
You kind of know maybe how to get around it.
And if I do remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, it is cyclical. I mean, it would appear approximately every 10 years.
Yeah, no, it had a cycle for sure. I don't remember the time period it was.
I might be
but
pulling that out of nowhere, but
No,
I'm
well-
pretty sure it was around 10 years. Or a
yeah,
decade
because
long.
the first set of unit or am I saying the right one right or
Yuna?
wasn't it Yuna?
Yeah.
Sorry. Her dad had done it before her, right? So figure one generation before. I think that was roughly the cycle that it would
Yeah.
come and go.
Yeah.
A generation.
Mhm.
So yeah, like that one is a little bit easier to deal with, Colin, than say meteor or basically an asteroid coming from space.
Just
how do
sitting
you,
there.
right? Like, all right, NASA, get on that one, or
Yeah.
your party of 4 people. Good luck, kids. Get out there and stop that thing, would you?
They're not going to leave Bruce Willis on the asteroid, are they?
Right. So.
And I think it's easier to deal with. Like Sin wasn't necessarily ever malicious in the game, but like in other Final Fantasies, like I mean, take your pick, like whether you're talking about Garland or sorceresses or Hein. I mean, all of them were like maliciously evil beings that wanted to destroy the world, and they were actively seeking to destroy the world.
Sure.
Sin's just going around, just
Yeah.
Doing his
Haphazard
thing.
So, yeah, I think-
destruction.
I
just oops, sorry, I crushed that town, didn't mean to.
I think that would be the one that I would pick for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I also thought 12 because 12 is in a world ender.
That's true.
It's not a good.
It's an empire versus empire situation, right?
Yeah, it's not a great outcome,
Yeah,
but it's not like
That's
getting
true.
hit
There's
with
a lot of
meteor.
yeah.
So so many of them are such world-ending scenarios, which is fine. One of the reasons to side path a little bit that I liked Octopath Traveler so much for the Switch was the main stories didn't have that whole overarching world-ending storyline.
mm-hmm.
Everybody had their own quest, and it was unique to them. Now the post-game content's a little bit different, or the post-main quest content's a little bit different, but the main scenarios were not world enders.
Mm-hmm.
It was everybody had their own specifics, and I kind of like that because, it's the guy he's gonna end the world again.
Well, it's more relatable that way too.
Sure,
Chris,
So,
what do you think? That's what I thought.
He's
It's
learning.
making sense.
He's learning,
He's learning.
turning,
He's
and
a
burning.
sponge.
He's a sponge, and we're scaffolding, and all
No,
these
5
teachers.
years from now, Chris is gonna get like the Nobel Peace Prize.
No, he
It's
isn't.
like, well,
He's gonna be an Olympian athlete. I
what?
thought we already.
we don't know yet. I mean, now you're an adjunct professor, Olympian extraordinaire.
You grew.
You grew.
Taller.
You
Yeah.
grew 2 inches.
There's no way you didn't. So that or he's wearing lifts.
All right.
Next one. Fun. There are the worlds, the things that we are at least exposed to.
Fun.
Taking that into consideration, the first thing that I think about is one of my favorite side quest or my favorite game. I guess it's a side quest is going to be Triple Triad.
Oh, absolutely. That's definitely a side quest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love Triple Triad.
Triple Triad.
It's the magic of our world.
Absolutely. No, it's magic. It's Pokemon, whatever you want to call
And
it.
that one
I
came in
mean,
which game again?
number 8.
8.
Triple Triad.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, and not only did it have the card collecting thing going
it
for it.
was
I mean, just
really fun. Yeah.
the game dynamics worked really well.
Yep.
I mean, the game within the game, they did it really well. There's a lot of games. I mean, like, and I can think of games that have tried to do it recently, like The Witcher 3 and Gwent.
Yeah.
Like, it's an okay game, but like Triple Triad, you could just sit and play for hours and
So-
forget that you're actually inside a game.
Now,
Yeah.
remind me, guys, is that the first implementation of a card game in the series?
Yeah, I think it has to
I
be.
think it is.
So
Because
it-
seven didn't have anything.
no,
No.
7 didn't.
And
And,
certainly any of the other ones didn't.
right. So that basically it was a mechanic in the game that they introduced real early on in the game. You were given a
Yep.
set of cards, and you could walk up to any character, push a button, and see if they wanted to challenge you or play against you in this card game. And it's a little mini game that would come up if they accepted it. You spent a lot of time collecting those cards, man.
You did, and it was super fun, and it was less confusing and more direct than Tetramaster, which was from Final Fantasy IX, which has to do with some sort of hexadecimal.
Oh man,
Equation.
it was
Elements
confusing.
and- yeah,
I had a tough
it was
time
a little more
confusing
in
it.
depth.
It was.
and that one was required to play, if I'm not mistaken, for part of the game.
Yeah,
right?
because you got to go to Trino.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And in Trino, which
And-
has the best Final Fantasy music of all time, I think.
Oh man, it was
City of Trino.
but
That's
yeah.
the one.
The
that,
card games were a lot of fun.
They were, and there was a bit of the Tetramaster that was a little bit more confusing,
Yeah.
and it was a little bit more random, and there was an element of it that was taken out of. You didn't have 100% control of how things were going to go when you put a card down.
Yeah, true.
Because you could put a card down that was stronger and that should win, but you put that card down, all of a sudden it backfires on you, and then you've lost
Oh,
everything.
you're still rolling the dice.
Yeah, and it is a roll of the dice, and that's just not something that I like to. I don't like that. Well, maybe
It's
should
it's
work.
randomness. It's a sense of randomness.
It is
I
a
mean,
sense of randomness.
Yeah.
So between those two, I mean, I think I'm not gonna to bash 9 at all,
Right.
but I think that between those two,
So yeah, a lot of these games, especially after even 7 had. I mean, they had all these Final Fantasy games basically had a bunch of mini games built into them to kind of during your downtime of the big quests and stuff, just to go kind of take a break and have fun.
Yeah.
The card games were a really good one. There was Blitzball in number 10.
man.
And number 7, funny enough, had a bunch of stuff.
Oh,
At
absolutely.
the arcade, what was the arcade?
Gold Saucer,
Gold
baby.
Saucer. Think the Golden Saucer was a giant, like in the sky arcade.
It was pretty much Vegas.
Vegas in
in
the
the
sky.
desert.
Yeah, in the desert.
Next to Ruby.
And there was Chocobo racing. There was basketball. There was
Battle Arena.
Battle
Tower
Arena,
Defense.
snowboard game. Like there, a number of games, mini games built in. So that
Yeah.
one had a lot of. Honestly, the Golden Saucer really sticks in my mind as far as like what was a fun world place. Like going to the Golden Saucer
Yeah.
in 7 was like you just jump in there and you could play all kinds of mini games. All of them weren't the best little mini game in the world, but they were fun. Like
Sure.
I enjoyed those a lot.
And they had the Battle Arena.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And-
oh yeah, right.
And I just remember being so bummed out at the point in the game where the Gold Saucer is like,
Closed.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
closed. You're like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, all my points. What do I?
Yeah.
Yeah,
my
what-
points. I need to redeem my points.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It's like, let me in here.
Just Final Fantasy VII trying to teach us a lesson about gambling.
Yeah, right. Maybe it's not
The
for you.
house always wins.
So that
Oh, guys, we got a follower.
what
Pre-fought. Thank you for the follow.
that
Thank
might be
you.
Chris.
That's me.
Oh, take it back.
Boo. Just unsubscribe.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um,
Love, link, subscribe, all that.
let's see. So we
Please
got.
don't do
Now, let's talk about Blitzball.
Yeah.
Aside from, I don't know how they breathe. In
No
the
one
water.
knows. Titus doesn't even know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's,
That was the confusing thing about that entire game because water just seemed to not matter as far as breathing
yeah.
throughout the whole game.
You're in it. That's cool.
Yeah.
And that might be part of that, and I know that you have a theory you're going to talk about later that I really like, maybe another episode, but is the physiology and the human biology different in these games than what we know it? Is breathing underwater, is that something that comes a lot easier? Is there something that they have that they're able to do that we just don't know about, or is it just one of those questions that you just don't answer because it's a video game?
That's the thing is that a lot there. I mean, there's so many questions in so many of these games that and that's a big one though. I remember being very confused when I saw them wake up unconscious underwater, thinking, and then they just wake up and they're fine. So
And that is such a cool game, though. It's a mix
yeah.
of handball and soccer and ultimate frisbee.
yeah, Blitzball was
Kind
a
of.
lot of fun.
That for me is the best side game. Not necessarily because I don't know. I enjoyed all of them, but when I think about how much time and effort I put into the side quests,
Mm-hmm.
I probably had 50 hours into that side quest alone.
Oh, Totally. Absolutely. Now, here's the question, guys. So we talk about those things and just narrowing it down to kind of those 4 things, because I think that those are probably the 4 that a lot of people are going to really focus on when they think about good side games in a Final Fantasy. And if we're using that piece to as a part of our equation for where we would live, what is the one that you choose? When I'm thinking about just logistical things, you never really saw hey, there's a blitzball field where there's an orb where you could fill it up, put a garden hose in there, fill it up, and the kids can get in there and practice some blitzball. Or was it how was it? How feasible was it to play in that environment? It kind of seemed like a pretty high class game, aside from at the very beginning when it seems like it's a pretty big deal in Xanarkand. Yeah, but that's like super high tech out there. Yeah. Most of that game is not in that environment. So is it feasible where it's like you could be a blitzball player for fun, kind of like when we used to go and play, Sunday soccer here in Seattle? Mm-hmm. No, you could do it because you have the resources available and you have the fields available. I don't know that that's available.
I would say that it is.
You think so?
Oh yeah. So take two of the teams for example.
Okay.
The Besaid Aurochs and the Kilika Beasts. Both of those guys, one group of one team is led by Waka, and they're living in huts and tents on an island somewhere, tropical island.
Right. Yeah.
The Kilika Beasts, they just got beat up by Sin, and they're still practicing.
Sure.
And
it's soccer of that world, basically.
Yeah, it's soccer of that world.
It's the anybody around the world knows it, plays it. So it's very common. It's a good question though, as far as the facility that it plays in, because
they're playing on the beach at the beginning.
Well, but that's the thing. Now, man, this is where these games get weird, because do the Luca Goer Besaid Aurochs practice out in the ocean underwater? Like,
I think so.
But did we ever see a scene of them doing that?
So we never did.
Right.
But so when you go to Kilika, you do see one of the Kilika Beasts actually practicing with the ball in the water. He's just
underwater.
He's not underwater. He's just literally just treading water and swimming around in circles with the ball. But so that leads me to believe that they did practice in the open water.
So then if it is, you just need a body of water, like a lake, ocean, something, then that makes a little more sense.
You got to bring the goals out there. There's a lot of questions.
But hey, people go far to make a flat field for soccer, so I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know, but that's a tough one.
So if the facilities are available, is that the world? Is that the ideal one you're choosing? Or are you going triple triad gold or Tetramaster, or are you going give me that golden saucer,
That's
baby?
The thing, man. I'm going golden saucer for me.
You're going golden saucer?
I've been to
variety
Vegas,
is the spice of life, right?
I've been to Vegas, and it's overrated.
It is.
I'd rather have some trading cards
really quick
or
at
play
golden
some soccer.
Yeah.
So realistically, guys, we've made this decision in our lives because we play Magic. We don't really play soccer anymore.
I'm playing Magic tomorrow night.
Okay. We're not going to Vegas anytime soon. So we pretty much said, I'm not going golden saucer.
Yep.
I'm not doing blitzball. I'm not doing a season of blitzball.
I played flag football last weekend.
How's you doing?
I'm sore.
So are we going? So maybe triple triad. That's
Probably.
Our game of choice.
As a consensus.
Probably.
That's the thing.
I would like, and you get a card with your face on it.
That is, well, if you're good enough, or if you're a monster.
We talked about how Colin would probably have a 1 and a 2 on 2 sides, and then a 4 and a 5 on the other 2.
Please. What you're mistaking that with yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
Real quick, what do you guys think is going to be the new mini game in the remake of 7? Do you think they're going to add one?
Absolutely.
Add one or keep what they have?
Well, it would just be a remake of the Golden Saucer, basically, right?
Probably. I mean,
they can't not have the Golden Saucer. Oh man, there'd be an uprising.
Okay. All right.
Chocobos was such an important part of some of that side questing.
The racing and all that.
All that and the breeding and get the perfect
certain locations.
Yeah. So I hope that they do, and it would be awesome if they did like triple triad.
Yeah.
In that, that'd be a gutsy crossover, but be pretty sweet. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right, next. Can I be an adventurer too?
What in this world that we're in these big worlds, can I be an adventurer in that world?
And some of these
Like I myself.
Yeah.
Like Scooter, you get
Oh,
dropped
man.
into this world. Can you be an adventurer? Because some of these, the powers are. It seems like the characters have this innate.
Oh, geez,
They are born
some
that way.
are like
Yeah.
as weak as I would be in real life there at the beginning. Some seem to already have the skills of most
Yeah.
superheroes, right? So
So some of these, yeah, you can.
Hmm.
Some of these are you born with that innate ability to summon monsters from the great beyond?
Mhm.
And some of these games that you I feel like some of these roles that you can develop into.
Mhm.
Just taking a look at Final Fantasy II, the United States one, I don't know that Kane, being a dragoon is something that he became as going through military ranks.
Yeah.
Being a Dark Knight, kind of the same thing, but Rydia and Rosa and
Vivi.
yeah, Palon and Param.
Yeah.
Those are and Vivi talking about Night.
I'm skipping
They
around, yeah.
they have these innate spellcasting abilities.
Yeah.
That so there are some games where it's like, well, maybe I could be a role, and there are other games that maybe I can be all the roles. Final Fantasy Tactics, a perfect example.
Yeah.
Of a role that you could be anything, because you can create a soldier and then you can just do this job classing.
Gotta be a squire first.
Got to be a squire first. Everybody's
Gotta
gotta
work
be a
your way
squire.
up.
Then you can be a chemist.
Yeah.
So
Oh man.
so in tactics, you totally
Yeah.
could.
Absolutely.
So in tactics you could. In 15, it kind of seems like those guys are
I mean,
they're military.
where did they get their swords from? Like,
Yeah.
that's yeah, and they're already
The blacksmith.
right. Yeah, like
but it's like Noctis. I mean, it's in his genes for crying
that's
out
the
loud.
thing. Yeah, it's like it's just as built in,
Mhm.
like you're saying with Vivi. It's a built-in thing that nobody
innate.
questions in the world that they're in. It's so
8.
8, you go to
Yep.
school for
Go
it,
to
right?
school for it.
Which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
7, materia. 7, you
anybody can plug into that.
You sure
system,
can.
Right?
You equip the sword.
Hmm.
But then again, only certain people can equip certain things, so it makes me think like,
Mhm.
Tifa couldn't equip a Buster Sword, but could I? I don't
Maybe.
know. I mean, I couldn't hold it. 'Cause it's
Lord
so-
knows Barrett couldn't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Only
So-
got one hand.
Only got one hand. So there's a lot of
Oh man.
it kind of makes you think. If in some of these worlds, would you want to be an adventurer? Oh yeah, some of them you would.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VIII, that'd be a great one because the monsters level up as you do.
Mm.
So you're not going to go outside your town and get totally smoked
Mm.
because if you're low level, so are they, and it scales with you.
Well, so that's kind of, the question we brought up last time. So, do they scale with you? Like, I mean, if you were not Squall on Final Fantasy VIII, you're just walking around, it's like, gosh, why are all these monsters so freaking strong? And it's like, oh yeah, Squall's level 50. I'm only
Right.
Sure.
level 15.
Dang
that
it,
makes a lot
Squall
of
would
sense.
just slow down
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
your.
Let me catch up.
Yeah.
Squall, chill.
It's like, is that the only Ifrit in that cave? It's like, gosh, darn it, Squall, leave some
Damn.
GFs for the rest of us.
See, this is I think called the rabbit hole
Yeah.
that you kind of get thrown down when you're thinking about these things.
Essentially, you need to kill Squall to have a.
Sure.
Good
an
time.
even
Hope it
playing
doesn't go to
field.
Zell.
Um, be an adventure.
Being an adventure, there are some games where you
Oh.
can do it, and there are some where it's an innate thing.
I think the online ones are a good example where you absolutely can be because you start out at the bottom of the pile, right?
Mhm.
Fighting bees and worms on
Oh
the ground,
man,
right? So, but like,
farm hard.
yeah, like most online ones. But I think that definitely, possibly, you could fit in there.
I think 10 too, and we talked about this last time. I
And
mean,
10.
Oh, is the sphere grid within you? Do
Yeah.
you have your own personal sphere grid?
well, the fact that people could be like voted in to be a guardian for a summoner.
Uh-huh.
It's like, okay, I mean that tells me that anybody could be a guardian. Therefore, anybody could be an adventurer, and anybody could be a summoner too. I mean,
Yeah.
You just got to go through the cloister trials, and you're good to go.
So you could be, if you're favored with the gods, if you have enough money, or if you are fortunate enough to live in a town, if you were born and lived in a town like Rabanastre, where you go outside and it's just these tomatoes and wolves that you just got to farm and beat up with a stick for, a few hours, and you'll become rich, and then you'll be well on your way. So
you start in the sewers with rats there. Like that's a doable one too.
So we've been giving a lot of examples of what or places we could be adventurers. Like,
There
so
are
what are some other ones where we could not? So like you mentioned was 2.
I think 3. I think it'd be
Yeah.
tough in American 3 because it seems like everybody has their innate abilities. I mean, Locke, he's a thief. There's some fighters, ninjas, which are not. There are certainly roles that anybody could, like ninjas. That's a real thing, but do they
Yeah.
have that magical powers that guys like Edge do in 4?
Yeah.
Where he's able to cast these ninja spells. I mean, that's obviously not a real thing. So I think that games like 2 and 3 in America, those aren't, when you think about it that way, you can't be that role. You can't say, well, I'm a Dark Knight or I'm a Paladin and okay, yeah, you can be a light warrior. Well, I can't cast Cure. Well, you can't really
Well,
be.
you're not really a paladin.
Yeah,
then.
sorry. You don't have lay hands.
You have to be this tall to ride this ride.
Yeah, exactly. So 7 you could.
Yeah.
Yeah,
seven-
potentially you could join the Avalanche team of Bandit or well,
I can easily saw off my arm and put on a
yeah,
machine gun.
sure. In that world, I think you.
But
Cause it's a
materia
ragtag.
and armor. That's what the
That's the limitation.
that's
Yeah.
what it comes down to. You gotta have money, you gotta buy materia and armor.
You can find materia in the slums.
Yeah,
There
you
you
can.
go.
That's the thing is that it starts in the slums there. So
8, go to school.
Go to
that
school-
one,
just go to
yeah, that
school,
one,
study.
because it starts there. So then 9.
9, those are
That's
innate.
a weird one, man.
Those
I
are
don't.
innate, I think.
I don't know because in 9 you get the abilities based on the equipment that you buy. And because
Yeah,
that's
right, and you have to learn it through the equipment.
you have to learn it through
right,
the
but-
equipment. But is there a prerequisite of birth that you are born that you are able to
a lot
acquire
of them
these powers?
seemed built like the story based around the characters. A lot of them, like Freya was a knight of sorts, right? Like her whole story was based around that. Zidane was this. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a weird
We're
character.
spoiling
story
a
around
lot of Final Fantasy.
that. The summoners were born summoners. That was a whole
Sure.
special
Well, any
thing. in
type
that
of
one.
magic, really. I mean,
Yeah, and-
summoners,
and
black magic, the
so-
blue magic.
That one's tough.
Whereas in 8, you drew magic.
Right, I
and you
think-
could
I
cast
think
anything.
I'm gonna
9
say no.
I think 9 would be a hard one to beat. Like myself, to be just dropped into that. That would be a tough one to.
You could
survive.
maybe be a Steiner.
Maybe.
Maybe. But
You're gonna
still,
have to
he
gain
still has
40
the
pounds and.
Yeah, you got to be a real stuck-up dude. So let's say 9's a no.
Yeah.
9's a
yeah.
no.
10,
I say yes. I
Yeah,
think
you
the
could
spirit
probably-
grid
yeah.
is within us.
11, yes.
I'm gonna get a shirt that
11,
says
yeah,
that.
because it's online game and everybody starts fighting worms and bees. Yeah.
Same with 14. And same with tactics.
Probably.
Same with
Probably,
tactics,
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, same with tactics.
Yeah. And then 12 probably too, because it's kind of that way, right?
Yeah, you're
Tomatoes
out
and-
grinding. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
the
10's,
beginning.
10's a yes.
Yeah.
13's a who knows.
Because we have with that.
we
I
don't
think
play.
We should,
We don't play that nonsense.
yeah.
And 15, that kind of seems like that.
That is a
that's-
one no because that's all built into them. Like again, where do those swords magically appear from? Every yeah, that's a weird one.
So how about this? Other jobs other than adventures. Like
Yeah.
this stuck out to me because obviously as a teacher, 8 focuses in on me because it's like, oh well, yeah, the school is a central part
Yeah.
of 8.
Teachers matter.
Teachers matter.
How much do you
man.
think Sid gets paid in that game to be the headmaster?
More than me.
You gotta think he's rich. I mean,
He looks.
Sorceress is in love with him. He looks like he looks like Mr. Rogers put on a little weight, but
Yeah.
he's in with the mob too. He's swimming in money.
Oh yeah.
It's dirty money, but it's money
It's money
regardless.
nonetheless.
Yeah.
So what, like, if I think for me this is an easy one because I love teaching. I love my job, and 8 is that's such a central point. And if you're at that school, you're really teaching. You're really teaching an important.
You're either gonna live or you're gonna die
Yeah.
if you learn this.
Yes,
or
that is
not.
best way to put it. And what other jobs are there? I mean, we know innkeepers. There's blacksmith. There's guys who sell items.
Mhm.
The job market in these Final Fantasy games. You have to just
What in the
you have to
world would I
assume.
be in that world?
What one?
Oh,
Which
man.
one would you go? That's the world. Like for me, it's 8. It's easy. Teaching, love teaching.
And you would be a teacher in one of the gardens or something, right?
If I couldn't be an adventure, if I
Right,
decide, this
right.
adventure life ain't my thing.
Right.
Not very good at it.
And see, so I think I'd be an innkeeper in number 10 specifically. I think innkeeper in some of the games is like, you're not making much money. I mean, you're getting paid $100 a night, not 100 gil a night, and in fees. But in 10, like Rin, for example, he was a celebrity.
Yeah.
So in all of Spirit, everyone knew Rin's name. And all he was is just, I mean, he's a glorified innkeeper. But essentially in the game, he was he was the Sir, gosh, what's his name? Richard Branson of inns. He really was.
In a weird way, I totally can see that. That's a good job to have too, right?
He was rich and he was a celebrity. I'm not sure why, but people loved him.
Missed.
Well, his places were nice. I mean,
And also, he was Al Bhed.
oh right, I forgot
So
about that too.
he was like the one Al Bhed
That
everyone loved.
Probably because I mean, in that game along that pilgrim path, like having inns was
Crucial.
a nice sight. Yeah,
Also, talk about the subtle racism in that game.
yeah, right. That's a
Maybe not so
again
subtle
another.
One of those pointed cultural issues Scooter
Yeah,
talked about.
yeah.
The Ronso are okay, but if you have green eyes, we are gonna hate you to the core.
Yeah, they touched on some weird stuff like that. Absolutely.
So you go innkeeper, Scooter.
Oof. In most of these games, what would I want to be? I mean, blacksmith comes to mind just because, I like working with tools every now and again, and you can make a good chunk of change being a goldsmith in some of these games or something like that,
Yeah, you could be make
some
the
sort of smith.
make the next nail bat. Attack 70, crit 4.
Exactly. See,
There you go.
Beautiful.
I'll get you that crit 6 if I make it just right.
Ooh. Man, you're
your
ripping
skills
through
high.
everything.
See?
Too bad there's no materia slots for it though.
Ah, no, that's on you.
Culture. The most culture. Some of these games do a great job, and when I think of culture, the first one that really pops out to me, I think, and I don't even know if I am putting this in the right context for culture, but when I think of culture, I think of Trino,
Mhm.
and
Sure, that's a great city.
that it is, and it has so much to it. It's got, in 9, it's got the card game there. It's big there. I think that's where there's the auction houses in Trino.
Auction house.
It's got
battle
it's-
arenas there?
It's the battle arena. It's got a very vibrant. It's a very vibrant city. And I know that there are other Final Fantasy games where they're equally as vibrant of cities, but there's something just about Trino and the namesake
The
of this
city.
podcast. I
Yeah.
want to be your canary. That comes from 9. That's a big play.
Yeah.
There is that culture that really exists in 9, and it's not the only one. I mean, you have the opera in Final Fantasy 3, and that's such a cool musical piece of that game.
Yeah.
God, something about Trino, something about 9, something about
The city of the night there, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Well, it's
I
like
agree.
the Gold Saucer's like Vegas. It's all showy. Trino's more sophisticated. It's more artistic and
Oh, yeah.
aesthetically
Oh, yeah.
pleasing in a cultural sense. It's
Yeah.
almost like old
It's like
Europe.
going to Paris on a good night, but it's not even Paris. It has a different flavor, and I don't
Italy
exactly,
or something.
Yeah,
Some-
yeah,
something- just
more
romance.
Italian, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little dangerous. I mean,
Little
Trino's
dangerous.
a little dangerous.
Yep, thieves
Well,
are
that's
running
part of the
about,
fun.
but it's the city at night. So
Just a little risk.
It
Not
is.
too much. Just a little.
But there's also the bigger cities that you are in that game. I mean, Trino's pretty big, but
Yeah.
No, but that one does stand out. I'm just trying to think. Like one for me in number 8 that always stood out was the first town that you go to, Balam, right? Or Balam, because it's the Balam Garden that you start at, right?
Yeah, I like saying Balam, but
Balam.
I have,
Okay,
it's
okay.
probably Balam. Balam sounds more
there's a million
real
ways
word,
to say it.
but I just like Balam because
Balam, yeah,
Balam
Balam.
is the word.
That little seaside town, like the music, the setting, the scene, the innkeeper that's always mad because his sign is breaking in the wind from
Oh,
the salt
yeah.
water. Like, it feels like a little town that you could just live in, like easily. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right
it's
on the
just a
coast.
seaside town.
Yeah, yeah, it had a good feeling. But that being said, the rest of the culture, like, it didn't have culture like you're saying. Torino was a fantastic little the city to visit. Every time you go there, you're just like, yes, I get to go back to Trino because I don't know, I have to complete this quest, but sweet.
And I know that it doesn't even count because we hear it in the game is that overworld music, and the music when you're in Trino is great. And I know that that's not going through your head if you were actually living there, because that would drive you absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But it is great music.
It sets the mood.
It does set the mood.
Yeah.
And if I heard that music, kind of playing a bit in the background, like, oh, this is pretty cool. But 9 does have a lot of that.
It does. I'd probably agree with that. I'd say 9 for me, somewhere 9. I don't know where. If you could take Alexandria minus Queen Braun, I'd take Alexandria.
Yeah,
It's a good city to live in. We're on top of a waterfall.
yeah. The
Picturesque.
They got the airships that that travel in some sort of. There's some sort of designated plan with the way that those travel back and forth. It doesn't kind of seem like a free for all like it does with some of the other games. So I think culturally, I think 9. It's such a great.
I'm
job.
just trying to go through in my head of the other ones as I go up the list. Windurst in 11 as a cultural city and feel and music and the whole bit. Windurst in that game, absolutely.
It's like there's games that just stay away from. I mean,
Yeah,
like Tactics. I love Tactics, but I would never want to live there.
Right.
Stuck
Oh.
between a rock and a hard place.
Holy
I mean, on
smokes.
one side you have the Zodiacs, and on the other side just the diabolical, corrupted church just
Yeah.
running it
Government.
down.
And I think that when
there's
you
a lot of
have
places
those
like that.
things so seriously embedded, it does eliminate culture. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
and I think that that's probably no mistake that happens when
in those worlds.
the
There's a-
religion and government is so corrupt and
Because-
overpowering.
That's a huge part of a lot of the stories is that
Mm-hmm.
conflict. So, and you get these little, like you're saying, the beaming lights of the little town of Trino that is just, it has nothing to do with that conflict. So in the game, it's untouched by that, and it's got its own, like you're saying, vibe, feel, mood, all that.
All right. So before we go forward,
Yeah.
Chris, pick a number between 1 through 16. Where would you, or 1 through 15? 16 is the one that he came up with that Chris is developing himself. Just pick a number, and we're going to criticize you
Go
for picking
now.
a number.
1, 2,
11.
3. Oh.
You live in
11.
11?
That's it. So you could.
Chris would probably live in Bastock.
Well, it's an industrial place.
Oh my
I mean,
goodness, he'd probably be a Golka with just those tiny little
running down in the mines.
Oh,
and,
man.
Yep. I could-
Dear diary, today I got beat up by goblins again.
Golkos and yep.
just
I
a
could-
6'4" Golka.
Well, you could join that. That'd be
Oh
good.
man,
What is there moving forward? Are there any other things that we really missed that would be really essential to consider when we're talking about living in a Final Fantasy world?
absolutely.
Like what are we missing? Because I know that
Equipment, weapons.
which ones are
What's so like for me? I love 10, love
Mm-hmm.
10, but I need to wield a gunblade. I need it in my hands so bad. So I'd be an 8.
okay. All
It's
right.
like what? I don't know. The Brotherhood. It's like it's an okay sword.
Yeah, that's all right.
And it's like I don't really want to carry a sword that Waka gave me. I mean, Waka's kind of an idiot. No offense, but he
He's
is.
a dumb brother.
7. Some of those weapons are so big. It just doesn't.
Well, you don't have to wield a Buster sword. You could
No,
just
you don't. But everything's. I mean, you think of the spear.
bigger, better. Just Texas, just like Texas,
Yeah. Never been to Texas.
right, Chris?
Yeah,
Yeah, Mr.
Alright.
Giggles,
everything's better, bigger and better down in the south.
get out of here. Mr. Adjunct Professor Chris.
Yeah.
All right, hey, lay off the kid, would you? All right.
Can't help it.
Colin, yeah, where are we at?
So I guess that's really kind of the list of components that
That's the criteria.
that's the criteria.
So let me give
all things
a
considered.
score down here real quick. So
What do you got? Doing the math.
yeah, I got to do a little number crunching here. Talk amongst yourselves, would you?
Talk amongst ourselves.
Okay, wait, I have a question.
Yes.
From what I was listening to, why did you skip one,
Through some of
one,
them.
one,
Essentially, like
5,
1 through
6, and what? 12 and 14.
You really 1, 2, 3, and 5 we don't really talk a whole lot about.
We will, I feel like, because we all need to replay those.
Yeah, and that's in
But it's
part
been a
because
while.
those didn't mainstream. 1 was really when all of us were born,
Okay.
and 2 and 3 didn't come out in the United States until like probably 2000.
It was a while to get
3?
those imported. Yeah.
2000. It was
the
for the
Nintendo.
PS1 that some of those games started getting imported. So probably 1999, 2000s when those started coming out. So they didn't really fall in to the line, because you got to think about it like this: as we're growing up, Final Fantasy VII comes out, and you're like, "Holy smokes, this is freaking awesome!"
Well, not only
Yeah.
that, but you're at that age where you can comprehend a lot of text, a lot of mechanics, you know.
Yeah.
So you're finally picking up these games where you can delve into them fully.
Yeah.
And 7 was for all of us was right around that age.
Yeah, and after 7, when you have this huge jump in technology, in music, in visuals, these games start coming out. Final Fantasy V comes out as not even a PlayStation port. I guess it
Fully
is a PlayStation
remake
port,
almost, though.
but it's like you're going back to the Super Nintendo, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like 7's out, 8's about to come out. I'm not gonna play these right now. So yeah, we've played them, but not to the point where we really immersed
I mean,
ourselves.
we probably each have played several of these games multiple times.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
It's almost like watching a good holiday movie for us. You know, if you're like sick or have the flu,
Yeah.
you pop in one of these and you go through half of it or something, and
Yeah.
Yep.
you know,
It's like I'm on my 5th time through number 9.
So they're very familiar. Some of the other ones though that I've only played through once,
Yeah.
I know them, I understand them, but yeah, we'll probably replay a few of them here
And like
soon.
some I skip over based on our criteria. So like 1, for example, it's like, can I be an adventurer? Well, I don't think if I plop down in the world of 1, would I be a warrior of light?
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't think I can really truly be an active character or player in that game. And 2, Impending Doom. I mean, just when we're getting back to like the diabolically, totally malicious, wanting to end the world beings, Garland was that. So it's like, I don't want any part of that. It's like, okay, deuces.
Sounds rough.
I'll find another world to live in.
Yeah, good. So yeah, some of the games, there are certainly some games that we are more immersed in part because when we were at that age, when we were very easily influenced, we thought, oh man, like this is, or impressionable, I guess is the better
Yeah.
word. They just left just a deeper impression on us because of, the age we were, and
And it really was
some of that-
groundbreaking. I mean,
was.
number
Oh, no
7,
doubt,
it's hard
no
to
doubt.
put into, well, it's not hard to put into relative terms. I mean, number 7 was like Call of Duty when it came out, or like Super Smash Bros. I mean, it was big. It was a big deal. I mean, like Colin already said, the graphics, the musical scores, the story, the
What
technology around it.
what year was that?
97.
That was
97.
Oh yeah, 97.
97. Okay.
That's funny. That's 2 years after the Mariners won the pennant in that 1995. Edgar hits the double. The crazy. It's only 2 years after. Between that when Final Fantasy VII come out, I do not associate that as only 2 years. They seem like totally different decades to me.
Well, it's just been so long since the Mariners have done anything.
I finally crunched my numbers,
All right, what do we got?
but I don't agree with the totals, which
Well,
is weird.
the numbers don't lie.
Apparently, I'm supposed to live in 10.
I'd probably, based off of numbers, I'd probably live in 10 too, but man, I want a Gunblade.
That's the thing, is that I think 8 is the next one, 7 close, and then.
I don't think
But
I'd
I
want to live in
would
7.
rather be in 9. That's the thing. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
So let's just go ahead and, all things considered,
Yeah.
take the numbers away. You got to make a decision.
Yeah.
Gunblade to your head right now.
Where
you got to
would I wanna
choose.
be?
Scooter, what world?
I mean, just for the atmosphere of some of the towns and characters alone, and how rich it feels is 9.
Ross?
Can I be younger?
Yeah, can we have like healthy bodies? And
Because
like,
most of
yeah.
the characters in the games are like 16 to 17 years
Yeah,
old.
you're let's say you're 20.
Can I go
almost
younger
flip
than
it.
20?
no,
again, a lot of the protect. Look it up, people. The
I know,
protagonists
I
in
know,
the
I
yeah,
games.
know,
they're
I
like-
know.
they're
It's a
not-
coming of
16
age story.
to-
Coming of age.
All right,
story.
yeah, you
In eight,
Alright.
Cypher was 19 and was like, man, that is
You can be
old."
19. You
He's
can
in
be 18.
college.
He
You
was
can be
he was
17.
old in that game.
All right, you know what? Now you're 5.
Okay, so if I'm older, so I'm essentially Sid in one of these games.
No. You're 20. Let's split the difference.
That's still old.
Okay. You know what? If you're 20 in the NFL, you're
How
doing
old
okay.
is Cloud at number 7?
I think he's like 17, 18.
Yeah, 17.
I-
How old is Squall at number 8?
are
17.
physiologically, are you stronger probably at 20 than you are at 17? Are you more mature, more developed?
Yes.
Okay. So just because they're
I wasn't pretty at 17.
well, anyway. Well,
All
okay,
right.
so what is it?
8.
You go with 8?
I think I would.
I think culturally I love 9, but gosh, it's got a feudal, like it's got that
it's
feudalism.
it's a bad world to live
Oh
in.
yeah,
But man,
it's like
I would be living.
Middle Ages.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be gross.
It's
gonna smell
It's
weird.
gonna be a rough one, and
Yeah.
because of that, I'm gonna go. I'd have to go with 8 as well. 8 or 10, and I'm gonna pick 8. Triple triad. Be a teacher if I wanted to.
Oh man.
All the stuff around me
Yeah, yeah.
is
You're set.
leveled to me.
Yep.
Technologically, it's a more advanced society.
Oh yeah, especially as you get further in that game.
And
yeah.
anyone can be a summoner.
And
Yeah.
anybody can be a summoner.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, that wraps up this show. Unless there's anything else that I forgot to touch on right there.
Chris, do you have anything?
What in the world?
I'm curious as what for people that don't know, what is a gunblade?
Oh,
It's a
So
sword
it's
connected to a
well,
revolver.
there goes a half
It's
hour
exactly
more.
that.
There you go.
Sword connected to a revolver.
And just a quick caveat: they did a fantastic thing in Final Fantasy VIII when they did the gunblade. If you hit the trigger at the exact time, you could also shoot the gunblade, which was a variable. Which
While
would
you're
act-
connecting with the enemy.
while you're connected with the enemy, and that was a variable that gave the user a little bit of control as to how much damage that would do, and that was very cool. I really liked that they did that.
Absolutely. I spent
That's
many a
cool.
sick day wielding a gunblade.
Ah, indeed. All right, so I Want to Be Your Canary. That's episode 3. That is a wrap. Thank you for all of our listeners. I know that there's a couple of faithful out there already, and we appreciate you.
The Celine's of the world.
The Celine's of the world. My mom listens to
Oh,
this.
Stevie.
Stevie, hi,
Much
Mom.
love.
Much love.
Much love.
Much love. I know that Scooter has to do his hi, Mom.
Hey, mom.
Bingo. All right, until next time.
It's been real.
It's been fun.
It's been real fun.